standing apart from Trump and saying, this is not a representative of my ideology. He's just the vehicle for stopping Hillary. But what's happening, and again, to get back to my original argument, what's happening here is people are now beginning to go along with all of the bad things about Trump and pretend they're good things about Trump because they want to feel better when they pull the lever. I don't think anyone should feel good when they pull the lever. I'm not going to feel good if I don't pull the lever. Right? There are no good solutions here. Everyone should feel like shit this entire election cycle because that's the shitty choice we've given ourselves.
Right.
And so the question becomes, okay, do you think it's easier or harder? Like, clearly you think that there's an ideology that matters that's not just anti-left. Not everything that's just anti-left. There are gradations as to what is good and bad within anti-left. I mean, right? There's the alt-right, which I think is just a shit show. They're anti-left. And then there's, Ted Cruz's ideology, which is anti-left. I think they're not the same thing.
Right.
Whoever runs the anti-left movement, that's the party. It's not enough for me to just say I'm against the left. It's also, what do I want? What do I think is going to, in the end, defeat the left? And I don't think what's going to defeat the left is Trumpism. I think that Trumpism is half leftism.
Oh, it is. It is. It is.
So my argument is that I guess the real question is, how significant, and I think this is what it comes down to, how significant do you think the threat is to a decent ideology that Trump is the leader of the Republican Party? If you don't think the threat's that significant, if you think that he can be president, that he'll just be, kind of a shit show for 4 years, and then there's a future for the Republican Party that moves back toward a better ideology and toward people who aren't complete clowns and all this, then you say, okay, fine, well, he's a black swan candidate, but and I don't like him very much, I'll vote for him, and then things will kind of go back to normal. I fear that this is something beyond that. I fear that there's a cult of personality that is now generating a move to Trumpism that is very much akin to what the Democratic Party did with Barack Obama in 2008, where it went from a very, very left, terrible party to a radical, almost, they've now moved to Bernie Sanders land. Even the Democratic Party, which was terrible and was already starting to move this way, they've moved so far to the left radically because of Barack Obama, because they bought into this and because it was successful. And I think that success tends to breed loyalty to an ideology that's bad. And the proof is George W. Bush. You mentioned it yourself, right? I mean, the fact is that for years and years, even after Bush left office, Republicans felt the obligation to defend all the crappy things that Bush did, in the process damning themselves to the minority. This is what happens when leaders take over parties.
Right. Somebody mentioned on Twitter, I thought this is a pretty good line by me, and I'll mention it because I'm brilliant, and my words should be known by many. But somebody said, he made sort of the argument you're making. He may have just come from reading your article, I don't know. But he said something like, Trump basically could be a Trojan horse, which will end up redefining conservatism for a generation. And I responded, I don't know if rewriting an intellectual tradition is high on Donald Trump's to-do list. And I think he does a lot of things unconsciously. I don't think that. Right, but I also the party is not going to be Donald Trump. Everybody kind of knows, including the liberal media, that Trump is an outlier. That he is a black swan. And so while it's certainly true that some of obviously Donald Trump would have some effect if his policies turn out to be popular or whatever, big caveat is for him to have any there's not really a huge Bush the First legacy because he turned out to be unpopular in the end, right?
I don't know. I disagree with this a little bit. I mean, Herbert Hoover was wildly unpopular and a terrible president. I think if this looks like the Hoover presidency, we're living it down for 80 years. We still get hit with Herbert Hoover. Right? And Herbert Hoover's policies looked a lot, at least on trade and taxes, looked a lot more like Trump's than H.W.'s did. Like bad presidents cripple, or at least are used as weapons against ideologies for years. And so my view is, how's
Barack Obama doing? I don't know if I buy that because I think we're now. I used to think that politics, that the success or failure of a presidency was determined by the non-political facts. Were you at peace and did you have prosperity? And that's how people would gauge whether or not that president was successful. Because all the ideological stuff like overturning or reimposing the Mexico City ban and shit like that shit that gets done in the first 10 days, they could do that with a pen stroke. But what really determines whether or not you're successful is did you keep the nation protected and did you keep it prosperous? Barack Obama has now been at war for 7.5 years and has delivered a grindingly miserable economy. And yet I think we're kind of past whether or not you've delivered good facts. It is now purely ideological. Not purely.
I don't think it's purely ideological. I think it's purely identity driven. And I think there's some crossover. But I think that Obama's politics is an identity politics of the new sort, and he proved it in 2012 when he lost on the ideas and won on the people
identity.
The identity question. I think Trump's doing that, and he's doing it from the opposite side, which is why.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. A cynic would say that unfortunately is where we're going, and someone who's not quite so cynical but kind of agrees with the cynic in this way is that if the entire left is going to turn into nothing but an identity politics, give me deliverables for my tribe shit show, then don't you have to erect a defensive bulwark of people going, no, you're not getting my shit, and the people who are outside those, in other words, doesn't the creation of such a powerful racist movement within one party necessitate a defensive coalition against it in the opposite? I mean, can we really just go, well, we're going to pretend that stuff doesn't really exist? Or do we have to say, no, we have to start defending? We have to, I think see what happened with Milo Yiannopoulos at
DePaul, listen, they did the same thing to me at Cal State LA.
Oh, I saw that.
But
they didn't actually slap you, did they? Did they go that far?
No, they didn't. They didn't get in the room with me. They were beating up all the students who were trying to get in. They
locked you in the room. They wouldn't let you in the room. Right?
Exactly. So now there's two questions: the political question and the moral question, right? So the moral question is white nationalism the proper response to racial tribalism on the left? On the moral level, I say no, right? I mean, I reject that outright.
Look, I'm going to say no to both questions, but at the same time, you have to be cognizant that you're not part of the coalition, the quote coalition of the ascendant. You're not in that group.
Well, of course, but the question is, so then the question becomes, number one, how do you win victory? And number two, and really these questions should be reversed. Number one, what is the purpose of winning victory? And number two, how do you achieve it? I think as a party and as a group of people, we've reversed the questions now because we're so used to losing that we've now gone to question one, how do we win? And then question two, what's the purpose of winning? And if question one gets answered, we almost don't give a crap what the answer to question two is.
Right.
Okay, so we win. And then we get a president who takes us toward the cliff slightly slower, but he's popular, but he, puts us back behind the economic 8 ball, and he grows government, and he re-enshrines the idea that government's supposed to pay for everything. I mean, it all comes back to that same question. How much damage is Trump going to do to the conservative movement, or if there is a conservative movement, what should that look like?
Let me throw in one. You almost have me on the never Trump bandwagon now, except for judges. And don't tell me you don't know which judges Trump would appoint, because the thing is, which judges Hillary would appoint. You know that part of the. So you can't every bad argument about Hillary Clinton I accept. I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest, right? Hillary will appoint. But even conceding, yes, what you're talking about, Trump is going to essentially bless the expansion of the government, and he's of the Bill O'Reilly quote unquote conservative faction where, we got to do something. We got to get there's something happened somewhere in Scarsdale, New York. We need a government program to do that. We can't have these ruffians, He's going to have that kind of reactive, he's
Michael Bloomberg, except much worse.
However, on the question of judges, his picks may lean moderate liberal on the bad side, but could be conservative on the upside. I know where Hillary's are all going to be, right?
Right. Okay. Here's my thought on, and again, this is a compelling argument. So here's my thought. Just for on the counter side for thought experiment purposes. One is the realistic answer, and the other is the other is sort of the role of the courts in our system answer. So the realistic answer is, do you really think that Donald Trump is going to fight for a conservative judicial nominee who's going to stop the encroachment of the left? I don't. The reason I don't is because he's going to be faced, in all realism, with either a Democratic Senate or a Democratic coalition in the Senate big enough to filibuster anybody he puts up, correct?
Well, hold on. Well, let me object to that. First of all, I don't think he has to fight that much. I think what Obama has proven for 7.5 years, Obama has governed by the principle it is easier to beg forgiveness than to secure permission, and actually you don't even have to beg forgiveness. You just fucking do it, and you count on the American apathy to just get you by. That has been Obama's governing principle. I'll just do it, I won't apologize, I'll break the law, and I'll...
With executive orders, but not with judges, right? I mean, he can't get Merrick Garland by, even Obama can.
Right, but I mean, when you say, whatever, recess, I don't know, but I mean, they would block.
No, yeah.
But if you're talking about the Democrats would block virtually anyone, so I guess I'm scrambling. Like, even if we had Ted Cruz, how would that be different under Trump? Like, what exactly?
Because Ted Cruz would actually sit there for 4 years and just keep nominating conservatives. Trump will do what Trump always does. He will cut a deal. Trump will go in and he'll realize this is a drag on me. The media is bothering me about this all the fucking time. And so what I'm going to do now...
Well, how is the media going to bother him about Democratic recalcitrance?
Because he actually cares about that. Every single issue on which he's dinged by the media, he moves. This idea that Trump is some sort of stalwart on behalf of... And he's a stalwart on behalf of Trump's popularity. He's not a stalwart on principle. He's moved on Muslim immigration.
I know that, but I'm wondering if the path of least resistance runs through appeasing his quasi-conservative base.
Nah. I mean, when has he ever... the minute that it's as you just mentioned, we're a tiny minority. Right? He's not... His level of appeasement amounts to 12 hours of, here's my Heritage Foundation list of judges. And then that night on Hannity, backtracking on it and saying, I may add, I may subtract, it'll be people like this. By the way, that interview with Hannity was one of the great interviews of all time, where Sean is saying to him, are you an original? You're an originalist, right? And Trump's going, yes, I'm an originalist.
I'm a true originalist.
I'm a true constitutionalist. And you're sitting there going, you can't. First of all, Sean has to read him the words so that Trump can just say correct. And it's amazing stuff. But beyond that, what's going to happen? I mean, and I'll put this one, I would be willing to bet thousands of dollars on this, that what would happen is that Trump would nominate somebody from his list. The Democrats would say no. He'd come back with a highly qualified, quote-unquote, highly intellectual judge, like he says, without any conservative credentials. You get another stealth candidate, and it's David Souter. That I'd be willing to put in and this is coming from one of the few people in America who opposed John Roberts for the Supreme Court. So on this, I actually do have a pretty good track record. So, but that's the practical argument. Then there's the role of the government argument, the role of the Supreme Court argument. And here's my separate argument. Maybe I'm more of a pessimist than most people about the Supreme Court. I don't think the Supreme Court is going to be the bulwark in favor of liberty that other people do, certainly not for long. And in the end, it's going to be up to states to tell the Supreme Court to go stick it. That's my view of this. I think that we're coming very close to constitutional crisis, and I think that moving toward it more slowly would be nice. But I'm not going to rely on Donald Trump's pick for the Supreme Court to save the country from utter destruction. That's a thin reed to rely on.
You make sense, and yet he would still be preferable to Hillary. I know Hillary.
Again, I can't. I'm not arguing. I'm not pretending it's an easy decision.
You're making a lot of sense, and you're convincing me of what I already knew: is that Trump is not as more preferable than Hillary as I would like, and yet he still is preferable. Ergo,
understood. And I gotcha. I've gotcha. So that's okay. I feel you. But in the end, I keep coming back to it's just a competition between values. Do you think the risk of Hillary Clinton is greater or lesser than the risk that Donald Trump is going to permanently disfigure the conservative movement?
I do think that the risk is greater because I do think there is an element working here at what I call of being overproud, where people are like, well, I don't want Trump to represent me. I don't want Trump to be the avatar representing my values. But he doesn't. And this is a purely transactional thing.
If this were really true, if you weren't the avatar of look, I'm not worried about him being my avatar because I don't back him. But I can tell you this: the amount of focus. Here's what I find odd, and this is where I think this argument goes a little awry. What I find interesting: the amount of focus that's being put on the Never Trump people, who you would acknowledge it. There's like 5 of us, right? I mean, let's be real. Since Trump basically wrapped up the nomination.
No. There's a fair number of you, and you kind of dominate the
no, you're just
commanding heights of at least of the online media.
No, you're just on Twitter a lot. There's about 5 of us. It's like me and Eric Erickson and Bill Kristol and Glenn Beck, and that's pretty much it. And like Brad Ford.
Dude, I had like 5 people agreeing with me yesterday. Everybody else was like, "You're a fucking fascist."
Well, dude, I think that we probably have reverse Twitter feeds then. I can tell you that ain't what's on my notification. Maybe that's just because the alt-right has found me, but
Sorry, I meant to because I saw some of the reports.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah. But you know.
And that's another thing, by the way, I wanted to point out is that a lot of this is based on which of these cadres makes you the most angry. And I've been off Twitter for a while, and I only give Twitter basically to annoy Rubio people. It's true. I don't know why. I just love kicking them, but. If you're not, it's like a lot of like when I was talking yesterday, I went back to Twitter for my just to argue this point, and a lot of people like a person called Optimizer Jr. He quoted you, and then a alt-right type replying to you, saying something, Ben Shapiro, Jew, something that kind of a thing, and he goes, your reply, he's saying this to me. He said your reply. And I said, well, obviously he's a monster, but that in no way changes the fact that Hillary Clinton is a terrible, vile, repulsive woman who's drunk and brain damaged. But I think I got a lot of that type of thing where people are like,
I think that
I will not associate with this ilk, and I'm like, well, I get that you don't want to. I understand that, but. Just like you're saying, well, us never Trumpers are only 5 people. Certainly, I think that this group of racists is more than 5 people, and yet it's still not a large segment. And this segment has
what bothers me about that. What bothers me about the alt-right is not the alt-right, which I was shocked to learn is even a thing. But more what bothers me is Trump's open pandering to the alt-right. Right, that bothers me. What bothers me is Donald Trump doing his shtick where he doesn't recognize David Duke or the KKK, or doing his shtick where he goes on with Wolf Blitzer and says that anti-Semitic death threats being sent to Jewish journalists, that he doesn't know anything about that, but the journalists sort of deserve it, and then his wife doing the same thing. That kind of stuff is troubling to me. So but again, I'm not even going to make the argument that should invalidate this guy, who I think again is a human pile of filth, from being chosen above Hillary Clinton. I think that the point that I'm making is that if you look at the polls, okay, let's look at the polls because the polls are at least more reflective than our anecdotal evidence on Twitter. If you look at the polls, the Republicans are consolidating much more strongly to Donald Trump than the Democrats are even to Hillary Clinton at this point. The vast majority of Republicans say they will vote for Trump in an election against Clinton.
At this point is a major caveat there because we're...
Well, even just in stark terms, I think it's something like 86 to 87%. This is the last poll I saw anyway. It was like 87% of Republicans say they'll vote for Trump, and I think that number is only going to go up. I think that number is going to rise because as we move forward toward the convention, as the target becomes not Ted Cruz and the Never Trumpers, but Hillary Clinton, presumably that number is going to go up, right? So it's not. But the amount of focus that's being put on some of the Never Trump people, I think the focus there has turned. You talk about the purity test. I think that there's a purity test on the other side that's been applied. That is basically you're a bad Republican or a bad conservative if you refuse to acknowledge that Trump, number one, would be better than Hillary, or number two, would do less damage to the country overall than Hillary. And that's weird to me. Like, I even get the sense from some people, I don't think this is true for all the people who are against the Never Trump group, which isn't even a group, it's just a bunch of disassociated individuals. But I get that even stronger sense that there's a feeling like, well, we've made peace with Trump. Why can't you all just shut up and make peace with Trump? Just make peace with Trump. Like, it'll make us feel better about ourselves. We'll have more people ready to fight Hillary. Just make peace with Trump. Just shut up already.
I kind of said that. I didn't mean to. I actually, before I wrote my piece yesterday, I was just saying to someone, I said, I should wait a few days to write this piece because I've arrived at this point, that doesn't mean everyone now has to match me. Just because it took me 2 weeks to get here. Now, everyone has to be here in 2 weeks. So I go, I'm not going to write this piece. But then I saw Brad Thor. I just saw so many people. And I'm like, all right, now I'm pissed off. Now I'm right there. But I would say, I think that this is like you're saying your Twitter feeds are the polar opposite. I get what you're saying about purity tests, but I see a lot of purity tests going on in the Never Trump movement. I think politics is always a shit show. I've never had a tremendous amount of faith in politicians. I have less faith than anybody. One of my friends pointed out, he was asking me he's like, why do you oppose Trump? And I gave him my reasons. But then he said, don't you think Trump would be a great way to show what a clown show this entire corrupt system is?
There's the ironic argument for Trump. Yeah, there's the ironic argument for Trump. But
it's a nihilistic argument, but I can't say I don't kind of like it.
I hear that, and I've said it myself. I feel like the Joker just set the piles of money on fire, chase the car. It doesn't matter if you catch the bumper. I hear.
There's a certain amount of purity signaling going on among.
It's hard to argue that it's a purity test when I voted for John McCain and Mitt Romney, both of whom I really disliked. Seriously.
I liked Romney, but I really had a problem with McCain.
Listen, I didn't even like Mitt Romney. I wrote a piece called "No on Mitt Romney" in January 2012, and then I turned around and voted for him and stumped for him. Right? I do think that Trump is a level beyond that. But again, I think that we'll have to. In the end, it'll come back down to that same exact calculation that I've repeated a couple of times. Do you think that Hillary is more of a threat to the country over the next 4 years? Or do you think that Donald Trump is more of a threat to the conservative movement over the next 40?
Okay, I'll just give you. I've repeated this.
And I apologize. I have to run in a minute here, but.
Okay, yeah, but I think what you're talking about is the corruption of Trump, and I've seen this mentioned that Trump is going to corrupt the conservative. I think the conservative movement is badly damaged. I think people are stupid. I could almost.
Yep.
Anyway, I guess we'll have to leave it there on that cynical note. Thanks a lot so much, Ben Shapiro, for coming on. And I
appreciate it. And let's keep the conversation going, because I don't think there's a reason that, the people who dislike Trump and are voting for him and the people who dislike Trump and aren't have to